Good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome members to the council meeting. Father Anthony Chole has sent his apologies for this evening's meeting. Can I ask members, when speaking, to speak directly into the microphone? This will enable members and members of the public to hear. Can I remind members and members of the public to place their mobile phones to silent and to stand where possible when speaking? Can I also remind those members who wish to speak this evening to keep their hands up until acknowledged by the Chief Executive? I'd also like to remind members the meeting is being live streamed and we welcome the members of the public in the gallery watching and listening to the council meeting tonight. I'd like to remind all members of the council's adopted code of conduct for councillors, which you agreed to and are expected to adhere to. Apologies for absence. Please note the apologies received on page 1 of the order paper. We have a late apology from Councillor Fletcher. Are there any further apologies for absence? Leader?
Councillor Fish is running a little late, but will be here.
Thank you. Are there any other? Thanks. I move that the minutes of the meeting of the 30th of October 2024 set out in the agenda on pages 9 to 22 be approved as a correct record. Is that seconded? Is any member in disagreement with the accuracy of the minutes? These minutes are approved. Item 3, items of urgent business. I have not agreed to any urgent items of business. Item 4, declaration of interests. Are there any declarations of interest to be made? Thank you. Announcements on item 5, announcements on behalf of the Mayor and the Leader of the Council. I'd like us all to take a moment and remember Thurrock's fallen of World War II on page 5 of the agenda. Thompson, John E., Moore, Edwin William, Andrews, Frederick, Clayton, Arthur R., Breyer, D.G.A., and Cocker, Charles Henry. Leader, would you like to make any announcements?
Just very briefly, Madam Mayor, as everybody's aware, we were battered by Storm Bert over the weekend, and I just think it's appropriate to pay tribute to our environment team who are out in very difficult circumstances, not only doing the job that they do kind of week in, week out, which included clearing up after road traffic collisions, oil spill and the like, but had to deal with a total of 23 fallen trees across the borough. And I wonder if it would be appropriate, Madam Mayor, if we ask you to write to the Executive Director for Place to congratulate and thank the team for their work and ask her to send the thanks of all members onto those who have gone the extra mile once again in difficult circumstances. With that, Madam Mayor, with your indulgence, can I ask Councillor Victoria Holloway if she can just address us for a moment?
Yes, Councillor Holloway.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you to the Leader. I want to raise a point of clarification following last month's council meeting, specifically on the question regarding animals given as prizes. I referenced an animal welfare charter from 2006-7. Following the meeting, Councillor Jackie Maney flagged to me that I had mentioned an old document and there was in fact a more up-to-date version. She was absolutely correct. An animal welfare policy was approved in 2021. The policy was not, however, approved through the normal means. It was due to go to Cabinet in 2021. However, the Cabinet meeting was cancelled by urgency procedures. An executive decision was authorised by the then Leader and portfolio holder in October 2021 for the Council to adopt this reviewed policy. I believe this is what led to the confusion. In that policy, the 2021 policy, it does state under the section designated to animals for prizes that the Council will prohibit the use of animals as prizes at circuses, fairs and for any other activity of a similar nature that take place on its land and will discourage this on land within Thurrock where it has power or influence. So I just wanted to thank Councillor Jackie Maney. I really appreciate the way that you raised this with me both during the meeting and afterwards. And thank you again, Madam Mayor, and to the Leader for allowing this correction to the record.
Thank you. Leader, have you got anything more to add? Item 6, public questions. Public questions can be found on page 23 of the agenda. I would ask those members of the public who have submitted questions to please read out their question when asked to do so. Question 1 from Mr Perrin to Councillor Hartstein. Yes. Good evening, Mr Perrin. Please come forward and read out your question as set out on page 23 of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Despite financial restrictions, will the Council ensure that every child in the Council's care is given a very happy and safe Christmas, especially children fleeing from the horrors of war and or surviving perilous boat journeys across the English Channel?
Thank you. Councillor Hartstein, will you respond, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mr Perrin, for your question. Children's Services are committed to make sure that all children who are looked after feel safe and are safe in their communities throughout the year. This includes Christmas and other times of the year where there might be other significant traditional celebrations. This is done through ensuring each child is in a safe and appropriate placement where their needs are met and includes being given gifts and being part of traditional celebrations. Each placement is funded to make sure that every child's experience is positive and that they are able to create happy memories. We are also proud to have local initiatives such as Impulse Leisure's Give a Gift campaign, ensuring that vulnerable children in Thurrock benefit from generous donations from Thurrock residents and businesses and receive a gift at Christmas time. Although the Council continues to be in severe financial difficulties, we are proud that our Children's Services continue to maintain the fantastic service that they do for the most vulnerable children and families in Thurrock, and this was of course recognised in our recent Ofsted inspection. Frontline services have not been affected by the budget cuts since the commissioners were appointed, and this will not change for the next financial year as we set the budget for 2024 to 25. And I'd also like to take this opportunity now, of course, to wish you a happy Christmas, Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, albeit rather early, of course. Thank you.
Mr Perrin, do you wish to pose a supplementary question?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
It's not actually a supplementary question. I would, however, with your indulgence, I would like to take this opportunity to wish you, Madam Mayor, and Madam Deputy Mayor, along with the 47 other councillors, council officers, and all those who work in the council, a very happy and safe Christmas and a happy, healthy and safe New Year. Finally, Madam Mayor, will you also spare a thought for poor Keir, Angela and Rachel, who will be relying on the generosity of others for Christmas dinner, and if they are really lucky, a freebie Harris Christmas hamper?
Thank you, Mr Perrin. In response to the first part of your statement, I'd like to wish you a very happy Christmas as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Question 2 from Ms Redsell to Councillor L. Watson. Good evening, Ms Redsell. Please come forward and read out your question as set out on page 23 of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Watson, following your advice to the Chamber of last meeting of full council, what future engagements with the council will you hold in respect of its plans to redevelop the Blackshots Towers?
Councillor Watson, will you respond, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Mrs Redsill. Nice to see you again. So, thanks for your question and the opportunity to clarify the council approach to the redevelopment of Blackshots Towers. As previously outlined, the council is committed to ensure robust engagement with residents throughout this process. A series of public consultation and engagement will be undertaken as the plans for the redevelopment are refined. Our goal is to ensure that all voices are heard and that the community remains at the heart of these proposals, and that started today when we met with yourself as well as the residents. Council officers will maintain close communication with the remaining occupants of the towers until the blocks are fully vacated. Furthermore, arrangements will be in place to keep in touch with former tenants of the towers, particularly those who have expressed an interest in returning once the redevelopment is completed. The independent tenants and the leasehold advisor will also continue to provide dedicated support and advocacy for those currently residing within the towers. In early 2025, following the appointments of the main contractor, a structured programme of residents' engagements and consultation will begin. This will also include all of those residents that are on the field and in the surrounding areas, like Lards Avenue. This will include the opportunity for the residents to shape the design and planning application through workshops, meet the contractors' events. Importantly, the contractor's dedicated community engagement team will provide a consistent point of contact throughout the whole of the redevelopment. Additionally, we recognise the importance of consulting the residents on the design and facilities to be included in the replacement fields in trust land, where the specifics of this consultation, including dates and methods, are yet to be finalised. We also will be looking at options as agreed today in the meeting, and further meetings will be taking place with the ward members that are very much going to be part of this process, along with yourself.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. Mr Edsel, do you wish to pose a supplementary question?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor. Thank you very
you.
much. Just before I ask my supplementary, I'd like to thank you for this afternoon, because I think that's the first positive meeting we have had. So that will hopefully go a long way. Just thanks for your answer and for the assurance that you're committed to further community involvement. Can I ask that you take care what is expected of you and ensure that any comments made publicly are not misleading? I'm only asking this in the context of what you said, that I didn't speak up to any meeting. For the record, I raised objection at 2 overview and scrutinies, 1 full council and to 2 cabinet meetings. I hope this has not misled residents. It would be good to have an apology. I would also like to thank you for the input that I've already said about meeting with the residents this afternoon, which I think was really, really positive. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms Redser. You can now take your seat back in the public gallery. Oh, sorry. Councillor Watson, did you wish to respond? Yeah.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Point taken, and we will continue to work with the residents. As I said, going forward, I'm committed to that. I think that every voice should be heard in all redevelopments, regardless whether they actually live on the scheme or surrounding that scheme. And we will continue to work really closely with the ward members to ensure that happens, as long with yourself. And we've got a bit of a structure in place today with a point of contact for the residents, with a point of contact for the ward members as well. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Item 7, petitions from members of the public and councillors. Please be advised that in accordance with the council's petition scheme, no notices of petition have been received. Item 8, update report in respect of those petitions presented at council and council offices. This report can be found on page 25 of the agenda and is information on the status of petitions handed in at council meetings and the council offices. Item 9, appointments to committees and outside bodies, statutory and other panels. Do members agree with nominations made on page 2 of the order paper? Do members agree? Thank you. Are there any other changes to appointments? Councillor Jeffries?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. It's just to correct something. I made a mistake last full council. I actually appointed 3 substitutes to an ONS place committee. So just to confirm, our substitutes should be Councillor Johnson and Councillor Abbas.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to comment? Item 10, revised political balance. Leader, can you formally move the recommendation as set out on page 27 of the agenda? You have 5 minutes to speak.
So, certainly, Madam Mayor, we have this report before us following the decision of Councillor John Allen to leave the Non-Political Alliance of Independent Councillors to sit as a non-aligned independent for the remainder of the municipal year. That means that the makeup of the council is now Labour 27, Conservatives 13, the NPAC 7, and we have 2 non-aligned councillors. And for clarity, in local government, you can't have a group unless there are 2 of you. So Councillor Anderson, although he is a member of Reform, sits as non-aligned, and Councillor Allen sits as a non-aligned independent. I think the NPAC have already removed Councillor Jones from the People Overview and Scrutiny Committee, so they don't need to do anything further. So with that, I'm just happy to move the recommendations.
Would any member like to speak on this report? Each member will get 4 minutes to speak. We'll move on to the recommendations then. I'll now proceed to the recommendations. 1.1, that the political balance and allocation of seats, as set out in Appendix 1, be noted. 1.2, the ONS committees remain at 11 seats for the duration of the 2024 to 25 municipal year. And 1.3, that the appointment changes of the NPAIC group, as outlined in point 2.4, is noted. Do members note the recommendations? Thank you. Item 11, local government boundary review and progress on Thurrock polling district arrangements. Leader, would you please introduce the report that can be found on pages 33 to 64. You have 5 minutes to speak.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As members are well aware, the Local Government Boundary Commission for England is due to publish its final decision on the new electoral arrangements for Thurrock sometime next week. I believe it's next Tuesday. Electoral Services team have done a really good piece of work in trying to get ahead of the game and identify where polling stations will be for those new wards that will be holding elections to next year. Their recommendations are here in the report. I would ask members to have a look in 2 ways. One, at those new polling stations to make sure that we are all kind of sure that they're in the right place, but also to have a look for their own current wards, just if they feel that polling stations aren't in the right place. If we agree this tonight, it will go out to consultation and then back to be agreed by the General Services Committee. Usually this would be agreed here at full council, but because of the really truncated timetable that we have for the boundary review, that will be delegated to General Services Committee. With that, Madam Mayor, I will move the report.
Thank you. Councillor Jeffries, do you wish to speak? You have 4 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. You'll be pleased to know I won't be taking 4 minutes. I just wanted to raise the issue of we've not had maps, so it's been slightly difficult to comment and look at this, and I hope the maps will be going out with a consultation. Because just a couple of observations. Little Thurrock Rectory, we're concerned that adding more voters to Thurrock Park, it makes more sense to keep it in LTRB, if that could be reviewed. Little Thurrock Blackshots, there's 2 parliamentary constituencies being put into 1 polling district. That could cause an issue at a general election. And then the other thing, just from my own ward, again, it's a bit disappointing. We've got 2 polling stations going into 1 building. Should really have 2 separate buildings because it excludes a large group of people from one end of the ward, too far for them to travel.
Thank you. Councillor Spate, do you wish to speak? Would any member like to speak on this report? Each member will have 4 minutes. Councillor Coxall.
Oh, thank you, Madam Mayor. I think just to really echo the point, I think it's really important as we get boundary changes, we're expecting them very imminently, and appreciate we've got to try and time the polling station review with it, but it is a bit difficult as members may not know just yet. We've got new polling districts, but we haven't got the boundaries finalised, but we don't know what those polling districts currently look like, and getting access to that information is quite hard for members to agree. I think it's normally we are truncating it, and I think it's the role General Services has to play about minute changes that we want to try and understand, but for the last 7 days reading the papers, it's quite hard to get a grasp of. I know my ward, but I've been in every ward, but I can't quite tell you the polling districts and the boundaries and where the new ones will be and where we start. So I think that would have been really helpful for councillors to actually see, and I do hope that comes forward. I would note in the new Ockenden South and North Stifford ward, previously Bellis, we are doing some changes around what use is E1 and E2 and part of F, and some of those are, I do note we're all putting it into 1 building, but again, it becomes a larger ward, but I just note that we are losing polling stations, and some people are more elderly population, it is a bit further for them to travel, so I'd just like to put that on record.
Thank you. Can I just say at this point, if any members have questions or concerns about this and you'd like any further information, can you please contact the elections team? And I'm sure your questions can be addressed as efficiently as they can at this time. Councillor Jones, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm also concerned with the timetable of this, reading this report. It appears to me like this year at Council, it seems to be we have meetings cancelled, meetings the same times, rearranged and everything like that. Looking at this, it looks like organised chaos. And I'm concerned, once again, everything's being condensed and we're going to be probably not ready for it. And the other thing I'm concerned about, I don't like the idea of losing the name Homesteads. That name at Homesteads on our neck of the woods to change it to Stamford North or whatever you want to do with it, I'm totally against that. We've spoke with the residents, they've asked for that to be kept as the same, and that's how it needs to be. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Watson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Can I just give a bit of reassurance that the actual working group that was doing that actually put Homestead as one of the recommendations going forward, and until that actually comes through next week, we're not hybrid here or there. Hopefully we've asked to keep that. Just like North Ockenden, they've put in North Ockenden doesn't work, it should be Ockenden, because North Ockenden you can look at Havering is North Ockenden. One thing I am asking, if that's okay, Madam Mayor, is can we have a consideration for an oversight? They are literally now at full capacity and they are isolated in Lakeside, and then their polling station is like 15-20 minute walk away. So if we could have a small one there, can Democratic Services please have a look? Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And it's not really a question about where the polling stations are, and I take your point about asking relevant questions to the electoral services team, but we are being asked to note this. So if I had a map, it might tell me where they are, but I don't understand why in my ward we've lost 180 people out of Horndon and gained 170 in Bolton. I'd just like to put that on record. I will ask the question to electoral services, but as we have to note it here, I want it noted that I don't understand that.
Thank you. Councillor Hurrell?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, in Bellis, one of the polling stations is not even in Bellis, it's in Ockenden. Previously, I think last year it was there as well, but previously to that, there was a temporary structure in the centre of, not in the centre of Bellis, but where the residents vote, it was in the centre part of it. Well, now it's been moved over to Ockenden, and it doesn't make sense at all why it's been put there. If it's because the temporary structure wasn't security reasons, I don't know. If it was cost, then this is once every 4 years. So surely this, you know, that comes into it. If it's location, then I've already answered that, because that doesn't make sense at all. And also, the name change, Ockenden South and North Stifford. If North Stifford does come under this ward, then why not Bellis and North Stifford? I don't understand why you've got Ockenden South and you've got Ockenden and Ockenden South and North Ockenden in Havering. It doesn't make sense. Anyway, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I'll just say at this point that all the points raised this evening will be fed back, so thank you for all of them. I'll now proceed to the recommendations. 1.1, that members note the draft polling districts and polling places outlined in Appendix 2. And 2, that the Council delegate the decision of the final arrangements for the polling districts and polling places to General Services Committee following public consultation and final proposals for the LGBCE. Do members note and approve the recommendations? Item 12, questions from members. Members' questions can be found on page 65 of the agenda. I'd ask those members who have submitted questions to please read out their question when asked to do so. I will take the question to the leader. Question 1, Councillor G. Byrne to the leader. Councillor Byrne, please read out your question as set out on page 65 of the agenda.
Madam Mayor, Councillor, I'm not going to ask any questions tonight. Since I put this question forward to the Planning Committee, had a fully open, honest and transparent where did it all go wrong meeting at Limford. A lot of frustration and reflection come out of this meeting, which I will share at another time when the Constitution allows me to answer my own questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Leader, do you wish to say anything?
Madam Mayor, I take it that was a withdrawal of the question. Therefore, I will thank Councillor Byrne for withdrawing his question and get on with the meeting.
Thank you. Question 1 from Councillor Johnson to Councillor L. Watson. Councillor Johnson, please read out your question as set out on page 65 of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Now that the portfolio holder has had 2 months since the September full council meeting to speak with officers, can she confirm whether Thurrock Council agrees with the proposal to construct pylons across Thurrock?
Councillor Watson, would you respond, please?
Thank you. I was hoping Councillor Johnson was going to withdraw his question for tomorrow as well. So, thank you. As portfolio holder, I can confirm that on the 18th of July, Thurrock Council submitted a detailed response to National Grid pre-statutory consultation. I've actually got a copy for you if you wish to read the 100 pages I went through. This response highlighted several significant issues that we believe National Grid must carefully consider as they proceed with developing the next stages of the development consent order. I understand your concerns. We share the same concerns that members might have regarding the proposals to construction of pylons across Thurrock, but it's important to note that these proposals remain in the early stages of the process. Thurrock Council remains committed to robustly engaging with National Grid at every opportunity to ensure that our residents' interests are fully represented. We will not hesitate to raise concerns or challenge proposals that could negatively impact on our borough. The next formal step will be for National Grid to submit their DCO to the Planning Inspectorate. This submission will initiate a structured engagement process during which the Council will play an active role in scrutinising the proposal and an advocate for the best outcomes for Thurrock. We are prepared to stand firm to protect the community's interest as this goes forward. That's the update at the moment, Councillor Johnson.
Thank you, Councillor Watson. Councillor Johnson, do you wish to pose a supplementary question?
I think so. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm not quite sure whether you confirm that the council are in favour of it or against it. So either way, if the council's saying they're for it, I'd like to ask why they decided to do that and not go against the residents of Councillor Day and I. What I'll say is that we'll leave it at that. I think your response, I'll take away and think on it. But at the full council in September, the cabinet members said that the council responded to the consultation the week before the council meeting. The consultation ended in July, and council officers have confirmed to me that they responded to the consultation in the summer. So would the cabinet member like to correct the record, please? And please don't insult me by saying this is something I'm trying to do just because I'm up for election again.
Councillor Watson, would you like to respond?
I can only give you the answers that they have gave me. We were supposed to have had this question last month. That was October. So they done it in July, and I asked the question in September. So whether we are for and against it, we're still going through consultation right now. So I'm not going to put my flag, like my colours to the flag post and say whether we are or not. So that process needs to carry on, just like we do with all DCOs and LDOs that are in this borough.
Thank you. Councillor Johnson, do you wish to pose a second supplementary question?
Yes, please, Madam Mayor. What I actually said, Councillor, was that when I asked the question in September, you stated that the council had made a formal response to it the week previous, when in fact that was in July. So would you just like to correct the record and say that the council made their reference to the consultation in the summer, not the week before the September council meeting, as was stated?
Councillor Watson.
They done it in July.
Thank you. Okay. Question 2 from Councillor J. Maney to Councillor Maurice Cook. Councillor Maney, please read out your question as set out on page 65 of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Next year marks the 300th anniversary of the birth of former Aveley resident John Newton. Can the portfolio holder update me on what the council is doing to work with local and international partners to celebrate this and mark Aveley's chapter in his life?
Thank you for the question regarding Reverend John Newton. I was actually in attendance when the plaque commemorating him was unveiled on the 21st of July this year at Purfleet Heritage Centre. I have been in touch with Heritage Centre to hear what, if anything, they would like to do. And obviously, if the councillor wishes, I'm sure that I can contact Wapping, where he was actually born, to find out what they're doing. This is something that we are trying to come as driven by the community rather than driven by the council. I'm interested in hearing what you feel would be appropriate. If that means you singing Amazing Grace at the council chamber next year, then I'm all for that, as that's what he wrote.
Councillor J. Maney, do you wish to pose a supplementary question?
I don't, thank you.
Thank you.
I'll take that in the spirit it was meant. Thanks, Madam Mayor. Thank you.
Question 3 from Councillor Day to Councillor Muldowney. Councillor Day, please read out your question as set out on page 65 of the agenda.
Amazing Grace. No, don't worry. Don't worry. I won't sing. Right. My question is to Councillor Muldowney. Can the portfolio holder give an update on the council's funding of the Thameside Theatre.
Thank you. Councillor Muldowney, would you care to respond, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Day, for your question. The Thameside Theatre is projected to break even during 2024-25. As you know, Labour scrapped the Tory closure plans and reopened event booking, meaning that the popular Christmas panto is back and the theatre's future... Oh, yes, it is! And the theatre's future has been secured until 2026. Officers are currently preparing an options paper on the future of the Thameside for consideration by Cabinet before the end of the financial year. And in the meantime, we've committed to undertaking essential building maintenance this financial year. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Day, do you wish to pose a supplementary question?
Yes, Madam Mayor.
Thank you.
Given that the policy introduced by the previous administration does not account for funding the Thameside, which was never up for sale, by the way. It was never up for sale. Will the portfolio holder confirm... No, it wasn't. Oh, no, it wasn't.
Can we have the question, please?
I'm trying to get it out. Oh, you can go off people, you know. So, the account for the funding for the Thameside, which was never up for sale, will the portfolio holder confirm whether there is a change of policy for the Thameside Theatre?
Councillor Muldowney, will you respond, please?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Day, I don't know where to start. Yes, there's been a change of policy. There has been a change of policy. The previous administration's default position was to close the theatre and sell it. It was actually on an asset list for disposal. I know because I attended Cabinet with, I'm sure Councillor Kemp will remember this. I attended Cabinet to talk
Can we
about
let
things
Councillor
on that
speak,
asset list
please?
in July, from memory, I think it was 2020, it may have been 2021, but it was certainly on an asset list for sale. The present Labour administration's default position is to keep it open, and we've directed officers to come up with plans for securing its long-term future. As I said, officers are currently preparing an options paper, which we will be looking at in Cabinet before the end of the year, so you'll have plenty of detail then. Labour's always recognised how important this community and cultural asset is to the people of Thurrock, and we've certainly had quite a few meetings where the people of Thurrock have demonstrated outside and made their voices heard on this issue. So we really couldn't understand why the Conservatives were so keen to keep it closed. We urge all residents and members, please now, to support the continued future of the Thameside by booking your panto tickets and supporting the other shows and events which happen at the Thameside Theatre.
Thank you, Councillor Muldowney. Councillor Day, do you wish to pose a second supplementary question?
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. And I am actually going on the 4th of December to see the panto. So, yeah, can the portfolio holder confirm whether council finances will be used to support the Thameside Theatre in the long term, and where the finances will be drawn from?
Thank you. Councillor Muldowney, to respond, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. At the risk of repeating myself for the third time, I can't confirm that at the moment, but I can tell you that we've asked officers, and officers are currently preparing an options paper which will look at the future of the Thameside. That will be considered by Cabinet before the end of the financial year. Obviously, all of that information will be out in the public domain a week before that Cabinet meeting, as usual and in line with governance procedures. And in the meantime, we've committed to undertaking essential building works, which obviously were not done previously this financial year. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Muldowney. Question 4 from Councillor Cathy Kent to Councillor Muldowney. Councillor Kent, please read out your question as set on page 65 of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Will the portfolio holder confirm whether the Thameside complex is still being offered for sale?
Thank you. Councillor Muldowney, you respond, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Thank you, Councillor Cathy Kent, for your question. Despite it having been on the website that it was still being marketed for sale, that is not true. The Thameside complex is not currently being marketed for sale, and as I said in answer to the previous questions, we're going to be looking at an options paper in Cabinet about the future of the Thameside complex before the end of the financial year. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cathy Kent, do you wish to pose a supplementary question?
Madam Mayor, I'd just like to thank the portfolio holder for the answer.
Thank you. Item 13, reports from members representing the council on outside bodies. Does any member who represents the council on outside bodies wish to present a report? No. Thank you. Item 14, minutes of committees. These are listed in the agenda on the contents page. To move on. Item 15, motion update reports. These are listed in the agenda on pages 67 to 68. Right. Item 16. Motion 1. Councillor Day, please read out and speak on your motion as printed on page 69 of the agenda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This is a really serious motion. Recently, the 1,000th day has passed since the Russian invasion of Ukraine.
Sorry, can I ask you to read it out first and then speak on it?
Right.
Thank
okay.
you.
I'd love to find it. Thank you. Got it. Okay. The council should follow in the footsteps, of Kent and Norfolk County Councils and partner with a region of Ukraine to mutually strengthen bonds and cooperation between Thurrock and Ukraine and instruct officers to work on an official partnership between Thurrock and the Ukrainian region.
Who is seconding your motion?
Councillor Maney.
Thank you. Councillor Maney, do you wish to speak or hold? Right. Councillor Day, do you want to speak on your motion, please?
Okay. As I said, it's a very serious motion. Recently, the 1,000th day has since passed from the Russian invasion. Both Conservatives and Labour governments have supported Ukraine in the face of Russian aggression. We should all be proud of what our governments have done in recent years to help the Ukrainians in the fight for freedom against the Russians. The UK has made a firm commitment to Ukraine and their people and has given aid and support to many Ukrainians who have had to flee their homes because of the Russian invasion. This is something that I would hope has strong support from every councillor across this chamber. I'm calling this motion as it will strengthen ties between Thurrock and Ukraine, and we must all play what little part we can to help Ukraine. A partnership with Ukraine would see the establishment of a memorandum of understanding between Thurrock and Ukraine region and would follow in the footsteps made by other councils in the UK. This would strengthen bonds with Ukraine and would act as a strategic enabler of business, educational institutions and communities, empowering them to play a significant part in supporting the recovery of the Ukraine. A memorandum of understanding would cement the spirit of friendship and cooperation between Thurrock and the Ukrainian people and will be the start of a commitment to help rebuild Ukraine. As I said, we must all do our part, and I do hope all members will support this motion.
Thank you, Councillor Day. Councillor Giacomini, do you wish to speak now or reserve your... Would you care to speak?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. This month was marked Armistice Day and Remembrance Sunday across the country. As a nation, we rightly use these occasions each year to remember those servicemen and women who gave their lives in armed combat in defence of our country, particularly 2 world wars. Many of us believe that with the end of those 2 wars, we would not see in our lifetimes acts of aggression in Europe, whereby one country invades another simply to annex its territory. Russia's appalling invasion of Ukraine dashed these hopes and reminds us that the world is indeed an unsettled place. As a nation, we have always extended the hand of aid and assistance to our close neighbours in times of conflict, and I am proud that this government and the last is committed to doing the same. That said, I feel that here in Thurrock we may be able to do the same in our own small way. As Thurrock grapples with its own internal problems, including the need to rebuild our finances, perhaps this motion might serve to remind us that the issues we face here are trivial compared to those faced by the civil authorities in Ukraine and the people they serve. Indeed, when the war in Ukraine ends, those same authorities will themselves need to begin the monumental task of rebuilding their own finances as well as the infrastructure which has been destroyed. Who knows, perhaps Thurrock could have some small words of advice. And that essentially is what a memorandum of understanding is about. It is about sharing knowledge and forging links which Thurrock and a region in Ukraine can both benefit from. If nothing else, it is a symbolic sign of unity. I appreciate that there will be a need for much work, further dialogue and investigation before we know whether we can move forward with what Councillor Day is calling for in his motion. And I know that here in Thurrock we have pressing issues which must take priority, but I believe it is right to support this motion and follow in the footsteps of other councils which have agreed cooperation agreements and partnerships with regions in Ukraine. As a first step, I would urge this council to commence dialogue with the Association of Ukrainians in Great Britain, which I understand has helped other local authorities facilitate such agreements. It would also be useful perhaps if Thurrock approached those other councils in the UK which have already gone through such a process and sought advice on how to proceed. I hope, Madam Mayor, that this motion will be received in the spirit it deserves and members support the first step in a process which could see Thurrock extend the hand of friendship and cooperation with a European nation that has suffered so much.
Thank you. Does any member wish to speak? Councillor Kent.
Madam Mayor, we will, of course, be supporting this motion. I just reflect that as Councillor Day began his remarks, he spoke of 1,000 days since the Russian invasion. It's, of course, 2014 that Russia annexed the Crimea, and the peoples of Ukraine have been living with Putin's aggression for a decade now. It's not just the 3 years, it's not just that 1,000 days, it goes back well beyond that. I accept fully the spirit of what Councillor Day had said. Of course it's right to build relationships between countries, to foster peace, to foster cooperation, and to foster understanding, and of course that's something we should do. I would just very gently point out that it's not the role of council to instruct officers to do things. However, we do take the spirit of the motion, so I would suggest that we ask that a report comes to Cabinet as soon as possible, setting out what the various options are, what the possibilities are, so that we can move forward and make some progress as speedily as possible.
Thank you. Councillor Coxall.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Day, for your motion. I think this is actually really good. It's good news for Thurrock in the spirit of what Thurrock is about. We want to be, I will butcher the Latin of our motto, and I'm sure Councillor Howden will remind me, but we are from the Thames to the peoples of the world. I was correct. That is what Thurrock is about. We have got three international ports, I can stand corrected, here in the borough. We have always been about reaching beyond our own borders, and I think that's really the spirit of where this motion is. The Ukrainian people have been, as Councillor Kent has mentioned, it's 10 years that they've been under the aggression of Vladimir Putin and under Russia's gaze in annexing Crimea and now parts of the Donbass and further with missile strikes into Keith. I think it's really important that Thurrock does follow in the footsteps of what others have done here. I think I look at my example I had experience with Norfolk, working with the county councillors there, Councillor Fabian Eagle, it's been really big spearheading this and around what Norfolk can do, and they're one of the early counties to open their doors to people fleeing the conflict, and that it's what they've looked at is economic cooperation, education, skills, arts, culture and exchange. And I think that's the premises and the spirit of what we want to capture. We've got fantastic things to offer here in Thurrock, much as regions of Ukraine have got fantastic things to offer us. We've always been the home of people, whoever they may be, wherever they come from. Thurrock always opens its doors and wants to work with them, and that's what the spirit of this motion is really about. So if we can look at reaching out and actually partnering or signing a memorandum of understanding with the Ukrainian region, I think it's a really important message that actually shows the people of Thurrock opens its doors and its arms to the world.
Thank you, Councillor Coxall. Councillor Day, do you wish to have your right of reply? You have 2 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yes, I do. And I welcome the comments from Councillor Kent. We've heard this evening of a strong support for Ukraine across the members of this chamber, and I'm pleased that members will be supporting efforts to seek a cooperative agreement with Ukraine, and that we'll be willing to do our part in supporting the victims of Russian aggression. I think that it's a great achievement of our political system that we can put down normal party political attacks and come together in a non-partisan way to support this, both nationally and locally. I look forward to seeing the progress the Council makes with this, and I'm hopeful that a suitable Ukrainian region is found quickly and that a memorandum of understanding can be agreed in a suitable time. We are quickly approaching the 3rd anniversary of Putin's illegal war, and it's not good enough to just be hopeful of an end to the pain and suffering caused. We must all do our part in supporting Ukraine in their efforts to stop this Russian attack. And I thank all of you in the chamber today who are going to support it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Day. I'll now move to the vote. All those members in favour of the motion, please show. All those against? Any abstentions? Thank you. The motion is passed. That concludes the business of the meeting this evening, and I now declare the meeting closed at 17:54. Thank you. 1954, sorry. I know I was quick, but I wasn't that quick.